I was in that arena. I remember doing a side stage interview. I got bodily hoisted into the crowd by some drunk and boisterous Polish gentlemen who pulled beer. I loved it. It was fine. They were gentle, to be fair. But I literally had hands snake up under my armpits and just launched me up into the crowd. And I did the interview the whole time.
Let's get into this. So let's talk about the esports of ESL before we kind of get into the ramifications of what's happened with Counter-Strike in general. And, so we've had lots of press releases drop in the last couple of days in ramifications
been busy. A lot of proclamations.
Can we call it a war? Can we call it a war?
Yeah, of course we are.
It's a fucking war, right? Okay.
It's a war.
So, but let's talk about the event. Obviously, a legendary event, IEM Katowice, happening for, I want to say this was the 10th or 11th year. It's been a Counter-Strike major. This year it was StarCraft.
I think this is the 11th year.
Is it 11th? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I saw at least a 10-year memorial video.
I know. I sent in some footage for like a 10-year. It could have been a 10 years of ESL video, and this could be 10 years of IEM Katowice. There might be that. I'm not too sure. But look, it's been about a year, I think, for Counter-Strike now already. As we had the major earlier on. Blast came out firing. Counter-Strike showing that it's still in a really good place. And obviously, despite all the challenges of global pandemic and having to deal with what happens if a player tests positive or how do we isolate from a crowd or whatever, we've still seen great Counter-Strike events. In fact, they're really the only one in esports that are putting on these huge events with people in the arenas. It's really just Counter-Strike and maybe Dota to some extent as well. Yeah. But that sort of run aground in the face of its own issues. Excuse me. But I want to talk about the setup they had, right? So let's start from the start because obviously the Spodek is like. I know that the Lanxess is the cathedral of Counter-Strike. I don't know what the Spodek is. It's something close. It's a hallowed venue, right? The echoes of previous champions. I can hear them in the halls. I've been dragged up as a side stage reporter by Carmack, a few years to do that event. Always leaves me with some really fond memories. So, and I really enjoyed the show as well. The setup was great. The tech seems to be evolving, which is good because the ESL Pro League setup was left little to be desired on the tech side, Scott. They obviously virtualized that studio and, it was questionable.
Yeah, their first foray, well, maybe not even their first foray, but the one they were doing out of Germany, that first rendition of their virtual set, definitely had some stuff to be desired. But it's a tough thing. I mean, we talk about it a lot because, again, I'm a production nerd, so I always talk about production as it relates to some of these bigger events. But obviously, we're also sitting in an XR studio and stage, so I really get geeked out when you start talking about the walls and green screen and stuff. So I'm always looking at that kind of stuff. So the huge upgrade on their analyst stage set, if you will, ESL Poland.
Desk, right?
Yeah, the desk. ESL Poland has a facility in town, so that's where this took place. They were not in the arena. This is their new virtual set look. Looks great, ties in to the actual physical set in appearance and coloring and lighting and all that. Really, really nice. This is the magic behind it, right? So what you're really looking at is a real platform with a real desk on it with cutouts on the floor that show the green down below and obviously green screen all around. And the desk itself is raised on a green platform so it floats even more in the real shot.
It's excellent.
Excellent.
I mean, we have at the Overwatch League, we had to try and virtualize to a degree, but we had to basically, everybody was in their own fucking closet or garage or spare room in the house, and, the lighting wasn't consistent. And then the virtual set was like 480p or something like that. So it's nice to see what you can achieve with the proper setup. The whole screen, they wheel me in to talk about the games. I don't really care too much about the production side of stuff, but they have a diffuser across the entire room. So the light filters down evenly, and I'm squinting at that scene of Trey talking and everyone at the desk there. I can't see any aliasing problems.
No.
I can't see any distortion.
Yeah.
Even the way that people are bordered against the background, sometimes there's an outline around you when you're in front of a virtual set. So I'll allow my sort of latent production nerd to come through there. I thought that they did a great job with that. It looks good. That's the standard, I think, that all virtual sets should be aiming for. If you can't do it in a venue, look at this. Look at what you can do with sponsor branding.
Yeah.
And how you can integrate it. This is the future.
And one of the really cool things is Jason and I, when we were watching earlier in the tournament, that the logos where you see Coinbase on either side, The week before,
Crypto, get mad. Hey.
Yeah. The week before, that was literally just in front of that desk. And they realized it didn't look good. It blended weirdly. So they moved and made two of them, put them to the side so it fits the flow better.
Yeah.
It looked really weird before. And again, so
okay.
the
I didn't
cool
see
thing,
that.
yeah, the cool thing about it being virtual is it's not like something you've built and you go, oh shit, we got to get the carpenters back. How do we do this shit? Electrical. Like it's all virtual. So you can tweak this shit. You can look at it. And again, green screen, so it has its own challenges for talent. I mean, the cool thing for us is we can turn and we can see the shit behind him. If you work in a green screen environment, it gets really green after a while. Like you're
weird.
either white or light or you got green, and it's a little, you get used to it, obviously.
Yeah.
But to your point, incredibly well done key. And where I really noticed it's really easy with guys that have hair like mine or whatever, but like watching Freya's key, because she's a woman, little pieces of hair, right? That's how you can check a key. And actually, some of it disappeared because it will, like sometimes like this boom will disappear.
Yes.
But no glow, like you said. Best key I've seen in esports in that sense. And conversely, again, you mentioned the PGL did the major before. They also green screen their analyst desk, but they hit them with a lot of light, and you could see the harshness right away from like Richard then in the environment. It didn't match, right?
Yeah.
These guys matched really, really well. They weren't so happy. And talking to Yanko a little bit, like they're down the road from the event. So
they're not even at the venue.
Yeah, so like
tough.
you're so close because obviously we've both been to that venue and we've both been to many venues. There's nothing like if you can work and if your desk is in like the back hallway, that's one thing. But if your desk is like overlooking, and I can turn and go, oh, look at that stage.
Yeah.
That's a vibe. That's
you can't really beat that. But you can't control that environment from a production perspective.
No.
But I think like anybody, like a lot of talent still sort of fight that battle. I think like the best you can do now, if you really want to create a clean look and have a proper virtual set up, you can't put them in the arena. It's not feasible.
No.
The best you can do is put talent in there, put casters in that venue. So sorry, desk people. If you are esports talent and you have the dreams of like being in the stadium, then switch off the desk and become a caster, because that's the only way you're probably going to be able to do it. If there's a world where they're going to start virtualizing these sets, which makes much more sense from a logistical and quality control standpoint.
Yep. And even if they don't virtual them, even if they keep them brick and mortar, but somewhere cheaper, right? And it's a standard set somewhere else. Because if you look at traditional sports, the desk rarely travels anywhere. Only for Super Bowls, only for March Madness finals, only for big events does like the NBA desk leave Atlanta and go to the event.
Yeah.
Right? Most of those games, they're in a studio. Like you said, the play-by-play in color, they're in the building usually, right? Same thing with football, right? Only for the big ones.
So I could never work a desk for that reason. It's fucking intoxicating being in an arena. It makes me about 3 times better at my job as well. So.
I used to love it. I mean, it was to the point where it was like, we pinch ourselves like, wait, I'm actually getting paid now?
Yeah,
right?
I've got to say, the arena looked really good too, though.
Yes, looked good. A setup they've been doing for a while. Again, when you move into a venue every year for year on year, you figure out how to set your stages up, how to drop all your power and all those things. So this stage is not necessarily new. They've had this kind of similar look before last year as well, but it's a rock solid. They basically half arena the venue, right? They cut it in half. Half of it is the stage and all the shit behind, and the other half is where the audience sits. Works really well.
You have to do that.
Works really well.
Because I fucking hate it. We did this in the Overwatch League far too much. There's so many venues where you're sat looking to the side constantly. Like, you need to cut these venues in half for sure. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't... It hurts your neck after a day of watching esports. So this setup, in my opinion, is the way to go. It's pretty commonplace for concerts as well these days, having you sat in the round and not sort of in that awkward way. Anyway, look, it's a legendary venue. It's not as big as it maybe looks on broadcast, but when it's full of people, like it's extremely energetic. I was in that arena. I remember doing a side stage interview. I got bodily hoisted into the crowd by some drunk and boisterous Polish gentlemen who pulled beer. I loved it. It was fine. They were gentle, to be fair. But I literally had hands snake up under my armpits and just fucking launched me up into the crowd. And I did the interview the whole time. Cameraman just waved at me as he bloody panned up as I was carried in there. But look, nothing really beats it's a playground. Nothing really beats that place. And I also know that sort of the setup there was really nice for players as well. Look, ESL have been iterating on this event for years now, so it's nice to see that they're continuing to find ways to improve it. We talk about how we improve our events, and with all the cost-cutting that came as a result of the impact the pandemic had on many esports enterprises, it's nice to see that we're still not settling for the status quo. And within the bounds that we have to create great experiences for players and fans alike, we are doing that. Not everything goes to plan, though.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me talking about production if I didn't point something out, right? And I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is great, they got AR elements going. Pause this.
No, really?
So this is a really neat thing. So what they've done is they've got like an AR little thing that floats around that gets in front of their camera and blocks it. Again, neat little thing. They fly through it, so to speak. That's not how you spell quarter, okay? It's not how you spell quarter. Now, conspiracy guy in me would be that's really close to Qatar, though.
What are you fucking talking about?
I don't know.
It's not close to Qatar.
Just bringing that up.
I mean, what the fuck?
It's one letter away from Qatar.
There was an Overwatch player, a Korean Overwatch player by the name of Quartermain, and he spelled his name like that, and it really tilted me because he had to
Kata?
Yeah, it was supposed to be pronounced quarter, but he just, dropped off the R. Obviously, he spoke Korean, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, look, these things happen. There is someone like...
But they didn't fix it. It's still like...
Well, how? So wait.
I don't know how that makes the show. I mean, it is what it is.
Did it come up multiple times?
Yes.
Oh, well, fucking hell.
Because I watched it the first time, like, okay, they'll catch that, right?
This is ESL in a nutshell, though. Incredible facade. Like, the front of the store is just fucking lights and glitter. And then the paint chips start to fall away, and then you realize it's like an overworked Polish guy at a desk, like fucking 16-hour-a-day shifts, and they're not backfilling his position, and they're only giving him a fucking, like, half-warm pierogi that's been split in half or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like... That's what lies behind the facade. And it's like that with so many esports events, to be fair. And the more of these events that work, the more thin that veil gets. So
close, though.
Yeah,
so close.
It didn't quite stick the landing, though.
That almost would have been a 10 from the U.S. judge over here. But really good. I really liked the desk, liked everything about it. Vlad over there. And basically, ESL a couple years ago hired away some of PGL's best tech guys, the Vlads and a couple other guys that were basically being the ones that were doing all the experimentation in this technology with PGL. So it's cool to see. And again, they got a whole bunch of money now in the sense of new owners. So hopefully they keep, using that to keep pushing this tech. Again, we're big fans of the tech.
Pump that fucking Saudi money in your broadcast. At least we can get something positive from this.
Pump it.
Oh, dear. Look, there were some. Yeah. Look, I think World Events cast a poll over this event. Its proximity, of course, to it borders Ukraine, right? And obviously there are players that are involved deeply in the Counter-Strike scene that are incredibly heavily impacted by what's going on.
Well, sure, and obviously, Poland shares much of the same history. You mentioned the Spodek. The Spodek was built in the Cold War time. It is a Cold War communist, blocky-looking Soviet. That whole city is very Soviet-looking because that's when it was an industrial town for that time frame, right? And so it's very concrete-y, very.
You can go to this like a mining museum.
Yes,
that's really interesting.
Yeah. So just historic in so many ways for that region. So obviously, the event affected by the war that's going on, affected by COVID, which we'll talk about because it affected the grand final in both scenarios. But let's get into this first part of it. So obviously, a number one team on the planet is Na'Vi. Na'Vi's charismatic leader, if you will, simple number one player on the planet, many years running, destined to win this event probably in a normal time frame. Looking a little human the last couple months, though, as a team, but clear favorites to do quite well. The team has Russians and Ukrainians on it. It is a pure mix of this war. Simple, OJ Borg shows up again, which, before we get to Simple, shout-outs to OJ. Great guy.
I think it was pretty last minute because I can say this: the ESL approached me to stage host this event.
Oh, okay.
So they were looking at. I think they asked Afia. She confirmed that, and I think they probably tried to bring Machine in as well. So I don't know. I assume OJ was their first option, so I'm glad he could make that happen. I couldn't have gone over anyway, so no hard feelings. And also, OJ is just a cut above. So, yeah, fantastic show from him as always.
Yeah, and it was just nice seeing him again. It was like, none of this bullshit has happened. It's OJ on stage again because he only shows up for this kind of stuff, right?
That's right.
He's not an endemic, right?
He's a family man, and he's obviously BBC radio host. So, great
stuff
guy.
to see.
Really, really never a dull moment with OJ around.
And he warmed us up and gave us a really nice speech. speech. Obviously, Carmack every year gives a couple nice speeches. These hit a little differently this year because of the conflict.
Yep.
And then Simple had a chance to talk. Simple and his team were given their Grand Slam awards, which are a whole bunch of money, and gold bars.
Gold bars.
This was during that scenario, and OJ did the one thing you're never supposed to do, but you can do it with Simple.
There are some people that you can do this for.
You can let Simple have the mic. So let's go ahead and play this, folks, and you can kind of hear wise words from Simple.
And the final question, how are you? You all right?
Yeah, can I
Take it, man, all yours.
Microphone. Okay, hello guys. First of all, I don't have a lot of words to say, but I want you to know that eSport is out of politics, and all players from different teams, and all of you have nothing to do with government decisions. My whole career, I played with Ukrainian players, I played with Russian players, and I played with American players. And all of them great guys. And right now I stay with my friends, with my real friends. We win together and we lose together. And all of us want peace for Ukraine and for whole world. All of us scared. And all of us need to show example on this tournament for whole world. We need to stay together as a unit with our fans, with our friends, with everyone who's gonna watch this tournament. And we all need to stay humans first. So thank you everyone who came. I hope you will enjoy this tournament.
Yeah, look, obviously, as this is happening, you know, Simple's hometown is being shelled to shit by and this is personal opinion, a absolutely fucking crazed dictator. So, you know, probably pretty hard for him to focus on you know, the task at hand, so to speak, especially when his countrymen are literally being handed AKs and, you know, and sort of defending the country. So, you know, he says that, you know, obviously esports is not separate from politics because it's all downstream from that, right? A lot of what we do is affected by that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, but it's an appeal, I think, as well. And also, I think for some people, you know, it helps them realize that this is not a directive that all of Russia has gotten behind, and the atrocities that have been committed in the name of Russia is not something that, you know, the average person is supporting. And, you know, I think it's important that, you know, Simple's able to come forward and speak on behalf of his Russian teammates and say, this is not, they don't agree with this either. Like, we are friends first. And, you know, so the sentiment was really admirable. And, yeah, it must have been a tough time for him to have to take a mic like this.
Yeah, I don't even know how you put it to the side and try to sit on that stage and compete, you know, because they had to go on and play. And they certainly became fan favorites right away, even though they already are a fan favorite, because you got this extra story of two countries coming together under one team banner. Obviously, Na'Vi is a Ukrainian company as well, right? The team itself, with ties to Russia, which we will talk about today. That's also in the news. So, and again, unfortunately for them, they lost. They got 2-0'd by G2. But again, can't say it doesn't make sense. I don't know how you could.
Perhaps their minds are elsewhere.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, mine would be. I think for those of us that aren't even involved, some of this shit, our mind goes elsewhere. So, like you said, like friends and family, home fighting a war, and you're meant to be playing a silly video game. So, I think one of the coolest, if there's a cool moment out of this, is just seeing those of us that have watched Simple grow up. Right, this is a kid that got accused of cheating and being toxic and just being a little shit years ago, right? Yeah. And being good, but a little shit. And he is through these last 3-4 years, from Liquid to, you know, now Na'Vi, where he sits now, he's kind of growing into not only a phenomenal player still, like GOAT, but he's growing up to a hell of a man.
Yeah,
like, you know,
I'd say like a
hell of a fucking
guy. At worst, a very decent human being.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important as well, an example to set for, you know, Counter-Strike can skew young sometimes as well, and I don't think it's necessarily the most welcoming community or even the easiest to penetrate, especially if you use like examples like HLTV, right? And if you try and take a community's temperature via that medium, it's not very good. But speaking of temperature, the grand final, Na'Vi didn't make it to it, but it was an insane series. The second map, Mirage, went to 58 rounds of Counter-Strike. Every single, obviously, I think almost every series was a sweep, but they were not short games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it was 19-15, then 31-27, and 16-14 finally to end on Dust 2. And obviously it was FaZe that ended up triumphing over G2. But what a series, and what a time for Counter-Strike, reminding us again that this is still the king of shooter esport.
And not at all what was supposed to happen, right? You've got a FaZe team that is playing with nothing to lose, a series of stand-ins. This is some B-roll we grabbed, pistol roll and stuff to kind of bring you guys up to speed. But to tell you about the FaZe roster situation. So during the early parts of the tournament, Rops gets COVIDed, has to play, has to be in isolation.
Has to play from a hotel room.
In a hotel room.
For the qualifier part, right? So not the Spotted games.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then has to leave to go home to get tested to come back because he doesn't want to get tested in Poland because if he tests positive again, he's quarantined and can't play.
And he can't leave Poland.
So he wanted at least if he gets screwed, he's going to be screwed at home and stay home.
Sure.
So he leaves. JKS plays for him. JKS comes in as a ringer.
Savage,
your boy Justin Savage.
Yeah.
Plays for him, does well, comes in with basically, I just don't want to be the one that knocks FaZe out of this tournament. I just want to hold my own. He fucking holds his own, right? So he does one replacement. Rops gets cleared, comes back negative, comes back in the country, all well and good, can sit on the stage, can play. Rain tests positive, right? He plays one game from isolation. The last game before Spodek, can't play Spodek games in isolation.
ESL ruled against it. Like they wanted to have 5 players on either side of that stage. Just as well that JKS was part of the entourage here for FaZe Clan and could actually step in.
And that's exactly what happened. So JKS gets tapped again, comes back in. He says 30 minutes prior to them getting on the shuttle that morning to go play the finals, because again, they keep testing Rain, right? If Rain tests negative, he could play, right? Rain doesn't test negative, you're in. They fucking 3-0 G2 with Monzi, this fucking Russian phenom kid that plays on fire still. Nothing, and Counter-Strike parlance this is almost set up to happen because oftentimes you're counter-stratting, you know what a set of 5 guys will do, where they'll play. FaZe kept having to play with stand-ins, so maybe G2 could never get a proper read on, because 1 minute JKS is replacing Rops, next minute he's replacing Rain, and he played amazing. He didn't fucking fail. He played well, right? Again, surprised the fuck out of everybody, and I think when they won that first map, it was all over, right? Like, they sent a message, and G2 was on the back foot the entire goddamn time.
Yeah, they were. I think, Monzi didn't really have the series. I think that a lot of fans were hoping would. Also NiKo.
Great flashes, though. He had some flicks that he would have been cheating at home. Like, some of the shit he did in that arena, you were like, okay, this kid, fucking A.
Yeah, I wonder how much it has to do with the fact that JKS was already part of FaZe's system under a different permutation, right? So, because really, it's unthinkable for a team with a stand-in player to be able to go this far. But essentially, it felt more like he was just a 6-man.
Yep.
And this was a 6-man roster, and they were able to sub this guy in. I think Counter-Strike, Australia's Counter-Strike legacy is, maybe under siege a little bit here, with that Renegades era is over.
You guys beat Titan once. You beat Titans once.
Right.
Chad keeps talking about that.
Was that 2014, I think, at Katowice or something like that?
It might have been. It was here, I think, actually.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. That's definitely one of Chad's favorite moments for sure.
Shit.
But, players like Dexter on Mouse Sports, right, who was, I think, on that Chiefs roster in Australia for quite some time, playing sort of domestically. And there have been obviously there was whole, Dick Stacey and his fucking sticker snafu and stuff like that. So I think Greyhound was the team that was representing Australia at the time. So sporadically we've had these moments as well, but JKS has been playing all through that. I mean, this guy was playing Counter-Strike at the top level when I was casting Counter-Strike back in Australia. So that's like 9-10 years ago. Yeah. He was a kid, straight up. It doesn't look like he's aged much as well. Very quiet, reserved kid, really hard-working kind of guy. and it's just an incredible result for him. And you can expect, a high-profile team to try and snap him up in a big
Yeah,
way
and his
after
contract
this.
is for sale. Like, obviously, he was part of that failed Juggernaut attempt from Complexity,
one.
so he's still technically signed to Complexity. Jason tweeted, hey, trying to help him out. He doesn't want to play in the States. He wants to live in Europe. So
JKS?
Yeah, and obviously Complexity's trying to build around their facility in Dallas. So
Yeah, they're trying to save NACS, right?
Sure.
So obviously,
they'll bring a bunch of euros in probably, but yeah, sure.
Obviously, that game. Yeah, what other way are you going to do it? I guess take some Valorant
But
guys.
but now, this guy, I don't know. We don't know what his buyout is, if it's a lot of money and a lot of months left on that contract. But hopefully that's a resume capper, what he just did for that team, and he should be able to get a ride somewhere.
And obviously, one of the, I think, players that's definitely most deserving of this kind of success is Karrigan, right? He's obviously departure from that previous Danish unit, right, and brought a lot of scrutiny on him. He was called a traitor. He was booed by his own fans. Was it Unza, I think, where they were? But obviously, winning this event for him is just an unreal redemption. You can see it there. I think Robban obviously behind him there as well. Just sort of can't believe it. Incredible IGL. This is the kind of guy that studied under Zonic, right? Brings that sort of, that I want to say ancient sort of, approach to IGLing in Counter-Strike. Really an incredible mind for the game does Karrigan have. Yeah, look, he had an IGL scoreline over the course of this series. I don't think anyone really is bothered about that. It wasn't an underperformance if you're just using the scoreboard, but truly incredible moment for him. And wow, we've seen this team come close, right? 2017, 2018, I think 2017. Yeah, I think I might have remembered that event specifically, and he had some words to share after it. He's really emotional. If you guys haven't already seen it, check this out. Fantastic winner's moment from Karrigan.
Game on the planet.
OJ.
That's what we just saw. 5th time lucky. It was insane to watch. What was it like to play in?
The first time I'm in the final in Katowice and winning 3-0 with so many overtimes with a stand-in against a great team. It's amazing. Should have won in 2018, but didn't. Now I'm fucking back and fucking winning this Katowice trophy.
You're clearly emotional. Being what you've been through, not winning in 2018, never being successful here, does that make this all the more sweeter?
Man, look at the crowd. Everybody's cheering Karrigan. Can hear everything FaZe Clan. It's like dream come true, and be able to lifting that. And I just want to say on Polish, Kohan was.
And you see Ropes there as well. Obviously, what a roller coaster for him, and he's been going back and forth, stuff like that. And like I said, this is the guy who was booed by his own fans. Motherfucker's it's like Jesus going back to what Bethlehem and almost getting run off a cliff or some shit. Nazareth it was. I don't fucking know, man. It's been years since I was forced to go to Bible Sunday school. Anyway, so so this for him, on so many levels is really vindicating. So great, great performance from him. Obviously, fantastic moment from a guy who's been around for a long, long time. Finally hearing the crowd cheer his name and not in a negative way. This event showed that the appetite for Counter-Strike is very much alive, Scott, in a big way. The most popular non-major CSGO event, and there have been many of popular non-major CSGO events, even just this year. That Blast event was huge. 1.1 million peak viewers, but an average, most impressively, I think, of 330,000. A roaring success here for IEM Katowice 2022.
Yeah, really, really good stuff to see. And obviously, those of us that follow Counter-Strike know it's not a dead game, know that it was never a dead game. It's a very popular game, and playership
it's a sentiment that resonates with me, Scott. I get it.
Yeah. You hear that dead game every so often. Back when your Call of Duty days, you heard that, right?
Ha!
You don't hear that anymore.
Ha!
So it's great to see. And again, great to see fans back in the building. Again, shows back. We have a major coming up. Which will also be interesting. Blast has an event coming up.
Yeah.
So we'll compare those numbers. A lot of the same teams. But nice to see. And ASL put a nice show on. I think, back to Karrigan, I talked about Simple, and sometimes I think we're so goddamn lucky with some of the ambassadors we get in Counter-Strike, whether they're some of our on-air talent or some of our players have just grown up to be just incredibly cool human beings. Because Karrigan, before he wins this, he's got this whole Batman shtick going on, and he embraces it. He lets people film, and he does shit with the TOs. He leans into all this shit. He's just He's just a fucking sweetheart, right? And so for him to get this victory, just fucking great. No crying though, Karrigan in Counter-Strike. None of that, right? No crying.
I like it. You know what I mean? Down with these outdated sort of toxic masculine stereotypes.
I am a boomer. No crying. Don't show your emotions.
You see how much it means.
You go in the back, you drink your vodka, then you cry. When no one's watching.
Yeah, cry when no one's watching.
Cry when no one's watching.
Where's the fun in that, right?
Yeah. But congratulations to him, right? I mean, just again, so badass. And it sends a... I don't know what message it sends. Like that.
Well, it sends a message. We're here to stay. This shit is legit. Not only it's a great, I think, continued proof of concept for esports, but also for this model. I also think that where are all the other games for IEM? Like I worked a League of Legends IEM event. That was awesome. It's so fucking good to do that. Like, come on, Riot, stop being so fucking stingy. Like, work something out. Like, this is an incredible place to have your esports event. We had one Overwatch event for IEM, and it was good. And I just, please, can Blizzard and ESL just fucking talk and let's make this shit happen. I want to be back in the spot. We did a Gyeonggi event in Korea. It was awesome. Figure it out. We need more than just Counter-Strike at these events because it's just such an incredible venue and there's such an appetite and love for esports from the fans. Oh, man, I want to go back there.
Well, and that being said, there was a StarCraft 2 tournament that happened as well. So they ran 2 games. I'm going to I don't know the names, so forgive me, chat, because I didn't research this part. But what I did see a tweet from Carmack on was that this is the first time in StarCraft 2 history that there were no Koreans in the final.
Okay.
Because we've had non-Koreans
so win. The word in StarCraft is foreigners.
Yes. Yeah, foreigners. I'm sorry.
All right. So, yeah.
Rainer won, yeah.
Obviously.
And that doesn't happen very often.
Obviously, I think StarCraft scene is definitely being really propped up by ESL.
Cyril from ENCE, right? Yeah. Badass.
So big shout out to the ESL crew. Obviously, Apollo's over there at ESL, obviously hugely involved in StarCraft prior. So
that's why it's back. It's got to be.
I mean, I know it's a part
Sean
of it.
got some power under him.
Sean is. He's a big wig over there now.
I bet he is.
Oh,
I bet he is.
I remember the old days out in Cologne,
You
buddy.
could be. See, he was a caster at one point, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I'd also have to sign away my right to be to say what I want on shows like this. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Yeah,
all right, let's.
$1 million is starting off for you, motherfuckers.